This is the Reflector Reflections podcast. My name is Annie. Join me as we journey around the world talking with fellow human design reflectors as they experiment and navigate their unique design. Today's beautiful conversation is with Paroxus. Paroxus is a 5/1 reflector who's been experiencing his human design for over 14 years. He's a software developer who was instrumental in developing the My Body Graph software that a lot of us use to run charts for personal use or professional design readings. Paroxus is also the co-collaborator to The Keys to Yourself, a wonderful program and website developed both by Ketsia and Paroxus to guide and support people through human design, which is tied to their Facebook group, Human Design Reflectors. Welcome, Paroxus.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's such an honor.
Yeah, well, it's my honor for you having me here.
Paroxus, doing this podcast, I like to talk to people about their journey with human design, and there's no right or wrong way, I think, when we start out. But given that, you've got so many years under your belt, like 14 years, that's amazing to, we're all reflectors. We've always been reflectors, but to know this for 14 years, how did you come across this? Would you like to share that with us?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was on a spiritual journey, and I had discovered that I'm fundamentally different from my friends and the people I meet, my family. I noticed that I see things that they don't. I get things that they don't. And it wasn't, I noticed too from my experience that I couldn't truly share what I was seeing. But what I could do was provide them a space for experience more of themselves. And I had this absolutely incredible and enriching experiences of connecting with myself and experience the universe from within and everything being inside of me. But after having those experiences, I went out in the world and I was trying to share that. Hey, this is just an illusion. Easing up. This is not as serious as you think.
Yeah.
And I noticed, especially my friends, they were like, hey, you are just this ordinary dude, our friend. You come here with this heretic insights or whatever kind of. And I noticed I didn't have a great impact on my friends, except just providing a space for them to be who they are. But I couldn't really get to the point of like, hey, you're doing something fundamentally different here. I was on a mental journey too, trying to like think my way through life and like, okay, I just think about manifesting this and that. And it was quite an interesting part too. But then it's basically just 14 years ago now. A friend wrote to me on, at that time it was MSM for everyone who's old enough to experience that. And he asked for my birth information. And he wrote, hey, you're a 5/1 reflector. And I asked, is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, it just is what it is, it's you kind of. And I was like, this is good, this is special. I felt it. Learning about what it means to be a reflector, of course, that resonated deeply with me, to being that open. And then also being a 5/1, that my influence is mostly with strangers, because we're living in this projection field where people that get close to you, it's a different type of projection. It's not that it's not the same space where you can be heretic and transmit that heresy if there is a certain connection established. So that was also deeply resonating with me. It's like, oh my God, this is so fascinating. And he told me, I'm not here to attract attention or start conversations. And yeah, and beside, well, my lunar cycle, I'm not here to rush decisions and da 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 da. So, but the lunar cycle and honoring that, it's not something that you instantly can experiment with, beside not jumping into new things straight away. Instead, well, after something coming to you, you have your lunar cycle, and if it's correct for you, it will still be there, and a yes after it passed. But what you can instantly experiment with as a reflector is stopping to initiate conversations. And at that time, I was working in a supermarket, and I had this idea that I was supposed to be there and be nice and welcome to people. And I was expecting them to be nice too, because I was kind of like, this is how you behave. You're nice. I initiate this conversation. Let's just all be nice here. And, whatever, this mental idea of how you're supposed to behave.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I will stop to initiate these conversations I having with all these customers when I was sitting in the checkout of the supermarket. And it was fascinating, because it's this pressure that comes to you when someone has a defined throat, and you just want to say, hey, just want to shout out and hello, here I am. And my mind was still there, just like, but I was just holding it and sitting there and shutting up while serving these people. And some, they said hi straight away, and some, they just wanted to shut up. They had a long day at work, they were tired. But at the end of my service, everyone showed a sign of appreciation for me just shutting up if they didn't want to talk. And it was such an incredible experience to have. It's like, oh my God, if I surrender to this, it changed my experience of being alive. Yeah. I do no longer need to meet resistance when I meet people. And instead, they show signs of appreciations. And I could feel it in my body that they were satisfied or pleased that I recognized this, that I could just give them the space. And this tiny piece was the seed for the continue of my experimentation with human design. So having that, life lesson of, hey, I'm different.
That is so phenomenal that when you first found this, that you could deepen yourself into that experience to know that I'm going to sit in this space. Because, when we first find this, we're very chatty in our heads, aren't we? We're very chatty. We want to get in there and figure it all out, brain speak, you name it. I got a lot to say about this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk this, but and you're laughing right now. And what you've just said to me is that you went the opposite way. You just went, I'm just going to fucking sit and not speak.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, because that's what I'm saying. Most of us just go the other way. We're just like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I think it's more challenging for women because you're more keen towards communicating and exchanging. And as a man, I could approach it in a more mental way straight away. because my mind was like, okay, let's just try to experiment with this aspect and really be rigid about not initiating conversations. And well, it worked.
It did.
It changed my life. And yeah, I was more of a attention attractor than a conversation starter, but both comes into one another, attracting attention and starting conversations. And of course, it was a great relief to let go of that, because I felt I have something truly special to share with the world. And I was trying to attract attention for, hey, I have this incredible insight about what is going on here. But I never got the recognition until I stopped to initiate and attract attention.
Yeah. And that's a big thing. I can definitely respect and feel what you're saying there. It's there's certain times in your life, or my life exactly, where it's like that's what we do. We just, and it takes a lot of self-knowledge to know that we do it. And it's a really hard lesson.
Mhm.
Or it's hard to see that side of ourselves, to go, I'm doing this because I want attention.
Mhm.
Isn't it? It's really hard to see that. But then when you see it, you're just like, okay, well, am I doing this deliberately for attention, or am I doing this because I really want to do it?
Mhm. And what is it that wants?
What is it that wants the attention, you're thinking? Oh, sorry.
No, what is it that wants
What is it that
in your
wants?
life? Yeah.
Ooh.
Because that's what we need to recognize. If it's the mind that thinks, or if it's something in your body that just naturally emerging. And for example, being a parent, well, you need to initiate your children once in a while.
Yes.
Not all the time, but there are definitely moments when you get to the point of, hey, this is something we need to talk about, because this is not working, what is going on right now. Do you have space to listen to me right now? And doing that out of an awareness that there is something that is truly needs attention, or out of a pressure that the mind has taken on to resolve.
Yeah, that's actually really, really wholesome. Thank you. So you went down this, like you've found this out about yourself, and you've really just gone 2 feet in, you've jumped in and embraced it wholeheartedly. What did you do then?
Well, I waited.
Yes.
And
did.
yeah. And it's not about stopping to live. Waiting, it's a matter of becoming present and aware and tuning into yourself, and not initiating new things. Because when you do that, you start to observe what is actually of value for you, and what are you just holding on to because it gives you a feel good, or what is it that you do just to try to please other, or prove yourself, or find love and identity and direction, or be a hard worker, or get rid of the pressure, or just because you're mentally certain about this is how things should be, this is what my life is about. And when I stopped to initiate, I recognized what was correct for me. And step by step, I started to peel off all the layers of conditioning, and also friends that I was connecting with that was actually not correct. And for me as a 5-1, it was rather easy after they reached out to me a couple of times and I still felt no, they stopped contacting me. So Yeah, well, I got pretty easily isolated from what didn't serve me.
Yeah.
And I had still a few connections with the people that was really nourishing me. And yeah, I still have this friend that introduced me to human design. And it's an incredible experience to have this to share with him.
Wow.
And we're both parents now. And yeah, got parents around the same time. He's a projector, so we have completely different experience of, well, being alive. Um, but yeah, um, I got less quantity of my interactions, but more quality. And I believe it took around 9 months or so. Then a new job showed up, and it was a job at the kindergarten. And until that, like, I worked at this supermarket, and I never felt that I want to make a career working in a supermarket. But I I really enjoyed the exchange I had with the customers and also the people I was working with. I was happy there, and people were laughing when they were like the customers that came back. They know me. I was a funny guy. They thought I was a bit, yeah, well, different, and I made them laugh. Um, yeah. So yeah, I waited out my lunar cycle, and I took that job on this kindergarten, and it was an incredible experience being in this group of amazing children that was just not that stuck in their head. And
Yeah.
I had such a time there, playing with them. And yeah, as a reflector, at least from my experience, being with children, especially because they are less conditioned, is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And what a
Yeah.
journey you've been on. That's profound that you've grabbed hold of this. Somebody's introduced you to it. You've grabbed onto it. You've literally just gone, okay, I'm doing this. Whereas a lot of us, we fight. We fight so hard to embrace the wait. You were saying there before, I waited, and not just wait a lunar cycle, you literally waited to feel. And that is so hard. That is, I think, it might be easy for you now, but I think for new reflectors, it's very difficult. Okay. Okay. It's not hard.
No.
It's not easy.
Well, I looking back at some levels, my life was easier then.
Yeah.
But I was also more in my head. I'm way more in ease and peace with my life today. But I'm also more challenged.
Yeah. Why is that?
Becoming a father.
Mm.
All of a sudden, well, when I met human design, I was single, and then I was dating a bit, but I was always living on my own. And it's a different experience when you have that space for yourself.
Yes.
Because you can really just be with yourself without having someone that comes and conditions you on a consistent basis when you are like home. And then the next level of challenge is when you are in a relationship. Because that's really when someone can call you out. Because we have these two different parts. We have the personality that we look at like, oh, that's me. This is what is going on in my life. This is what I identify with, and I see everything. This is. And I'm doing all of these things all perfect. And I see you over there, and you're not getting that right, or that, or that. And then you go to that person, hey, you know what? I see you're doing that wrong. You could perfect that or this. And they say, are you crazy? What? I can't believe that you come to me with this shit. You're doing that is all wrong. You know, you're such a hypocrite, you know, coming here telling me what to do. I didn't even ask for it. So, because the other sees our unconscious, our design. So it's first in the interaction with the other that we get to meet our dualistic being, and where we can really, well, mature into being who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. I had a very wise person say to me only last week when I was having a little bitch and a whinge about, can I just, take off into the cabin for like a week and just not have to deal with anybody? And she said to me, oh, but Annie, she said, you wouldn't grow because you don't have the back and forth, the back and forth, the back and forth. And I went, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah. And then you add one more person to that. Usually it's a child.
Yes.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have a penta. And that is another level of conditioning. As a reflector, well, mainly we're conditioned by the planetary program, the transits. And that's what we cannot shield off, what we're here to embody and live out. And then we have the conditioning from the other that usually comes with, well, electromagnetic connections or definition that we need to deal with. And that brings a consistent theme into our lives. And then when you add a third person, you have the penta, and you have a new level of conditioning. And this conditioning triggers you in ways that goes back to your childhood, from how you are conditioned from the penta you're born into, and the conditioning from the people around you, from how they look at your penta and how you're supposed to behave as a family, regarding resources, regarding display, regarding, yeah, just having traditions or discipline. There's a lot of different aspects, 12 different aspects that if you have that open in your penta, you can easily get lost in that and conditioned to try to fix it. And that is basically the drama that comes into families when you have children. Because you look at this and, hey, you need to be more disciplined. And of course, if you don't have that in the penta, well, the family is not designed to be disciplined. It's not something to fix.
Would you mind just explaining your version of the penta? Would you mind explaining to people what that is so that they understand?
It's basically when you are more than two people. 2 up to 5 is a penta.
Okay.
And that's basically a energy dynamic in the group that ultimately impacts the material direction and display of the group. So you live in pentas if you have a family. If you have a partner or more than one child and you live alone, you're always dealing with a penta. And that is about material direction to ensure the survival of the group. But we're not here to live out that conditioning. We're here to make decisions as ourselves and not based on the conditioning from the penta or the conditioning from the other. So looking at the penta, and the dynamics there can, and understand that this is something to surrender to, can bring a lot of ease into your family. If those are aspects that you're deeply troubled with. And it comes down to accepting what is and not trying to change it, but observing and see, hey, okay, well, this seems to be something that challenges us. But as long as we're not trying to change the other and honoring our uniqueness and their uniqueness, well, it is just something to observe and a part of the movie and part of the conditioning that we're here as, especially as reflectors, to be wise about and not get lost in.
And that is very difficult, isn't it? To not change or want to change somebody else, not feel them, not like when you find out you're a reflector, when you're in a relationship, as you've done, that's one thing. Bringing in another as a child, that's another thing. But how do you deal with relationships when you're a reflector? Like, how does that look? It's, what do you do? What's your advice? What's the first thing that we should do? Obviously, we got to honor ourselves, but how do you do that?
Well, I go back to the beginning. You stop attracting attention or initiate conversation if you're living with someone with a defined throat. Because then you will manage to be wise what actually needs attention, and it's worth it to attract attention and what needs to be communicated.
Yeah.
And usually, acceptance is the key. And it helps a lot to know the design of the people we meet. And well, firstly, to honor ourselves, our inconsistently. And to live your design it's the key for everything, because when you do, everything else aligns. But it helps to recognize the mechanics of the Maya and recognize, oh, this is what this person brings to me. This is an emotional being, and this being is nervous. So this being shouldn't be rushed, for example. Like all those centers is where I started, and where it's easiest to start to recognize what you take in from the other. And then the aura that you're meeting, well, that's what you take in and sample from the other. Is it a manifestor, a projector, or a generator? They operate very different, and they need to be treated differently too. So, well, I guess you start at a type level and start recognizing the different aura and observing, how is the interaction with me as a reflector? Am I recognized? And you need to stand up for your own borders. For example, if you sleep in the same aura of the other, well, you will not be able to determine as good during the day what is yours and what isn't.
Yes.
So sleeping in your own aura is a way for you to decondition during the night, to clean up, to cleanse everything you're taking in during the day, so you can be more sharp and wise about what you're meeting.
So what happens if you can't? What happens if a situation is that as a reflector, you can't sleep on your own, like you can't honor that? How do you think that a reflector can discharge those energies a different way?
Well, first of all, there is no choice in any of this.
There's no choice, that there is a choice.
Well, my approach to this, there is a choice, is that, well, if you had a choice, you would always choose what is best for you. Or so is there a choice than choosing what is best for you? So in that way, I see there is no choice. And then we can look at it from a physical level, that every thought we have is already formed in the gray area of our brain before we are actually conscious about it. So yeah, it is what it is anyway. And I believe we shouldn't compare ourselves to others, because if you cannot have your own space, well, observe how that is.
Yeah.
How is it to sleep with these people, or always be in the hour of these people?
And that's a really good point, because I sleep half and half. So I know that I do sleep better in my own space, but at the same time, I really enjoy sleeping with my partner, my generator partner. Now, in the books, they say sleep apart. And this really shits me, because it's a rule that somebody has dictated to us that we should do, like sleep apart from people. But I love what you just said there. It's like you choose what you need to do and what feels good for you. And if that means that maybe 1 or 2 nights a week you sleep with your husband or your wife, great, if that feels good for you. But I think that we can get reflectors, when they first find out they're reflectors, they can get caught into this world of, these are the rules, this is what you've got to do this, do this, do this. And that, I don't think, works for everybody. So I guess that's why I was asking, like, what happens when you can't, or what happens when you don't want to, or what happens when you still feel good?
Well, as I said, well, first I just want to point out that it's not rules. It's a recommendation. And it's something to observe. The recommendation is sleep alone in your own aura as much as you can. But this is, it's not supposed to be like a dogma that's like, I am supposed to, this is how I am supposed to do, and I will only do it like that. Because that's not correct. It's the same thing with not starting a conversation. Because my experience after a while was that sometimes I was actually recognized, and it would have been correct for me to say something in certain situations when I was just shutting up, because I was thinking this is how I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something that is, I believe it's a key to recognize that this is an experiment, and each one of us will have our unique experience of being who we are.
Thank you for saying that, because that's perfect. That is exactly what it is. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's out of comparison with anyone. Oh, like he or she is living her design like this, and she's so, or he's so rigid, and and I cannot do that. Well, good for you. You have your own journey. It's your experience. It's just a matter of observing what works for you, not what works for others. You can look at that and say, oh, that's interesting, and gets inspired by that. But it comes down to you making decisions as yourself, self-empowering yourself, not being dependent on others, but live your life out of your truth in alignment with yourself.
I love that. Thank you so very much. That's spoken perfectly, because it sometimes is quite troubling, I guess, when, new reflectors, we're getting into this, and it feels like rules. And as you just said, it's not rules, it's recommendations. So thank you for just sharing your wisdom there, because that's perfect. So you've gone down this path for 14 years. Have you always, how many years did it take you to get into this space of kind of honoring your own energy? Was it on the get-go, or did you sort of like transition in, or did you just go bang? Like you were saying there earlier, that you found this out about yourself and you went, I'm doing this, I'm all in. Have you been all in for 14 years? Am I using my
Well,
Australianism here?
um, well, it would be a lie to say that I haven't experienced bumps in the road.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
dare
God.
you deviate from the
Yeah.
past?
I was like, well, from day one, I've been walking around and being holy all the time, self-fulfilled, and it's like nothing comes in my way. And
I call
oh,
bullshit
God.
on that. No
Oh, yeah,
way.
yeah. It's a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, because well, I had challenges and I've been stuck in my head too.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're spiraling through life
Yeah.
and we are having these processes that, yeah, it's kind of certain points that you come back to, that you need to pay attention to again. And like special trigger points. And life is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, you start to honoring your surrounding authority, and life is like, no, everything will just be provided for you when you think you need it.
Yeah.
Because you get it when you need it, but not when you think you need it.
So true.
And God, I've been challenged.
Yeah.
And yeah, physically, I overdid it. I overworked. I got lost, especially after my son Leon was born. And he's a sleeping phoenix with the most intense channel you can imagine. A channel of charisma.
Yes.
Activated by his sun, Earth, the sign Sun Earth in the third line. And what that means for you that doesn't know all these things is that he's constantly bumping into everything with full force. And he was constantly just self-empowered and running in all directions and just bumping in everything. So we were just putting up pillows everywhere and constantly running after him. And whenever we were outside our apartment, and he was constantly like empowering us in the moment with his aliveness and his presence. And he has the ego defined too. So it comes with a lot of willpower and energy to compete, and like, hey, let's have this life now together alive.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, you could see that he was just there and present.
Yeah.
And it's been an incredible journey, but having that change in my daily routine, because I'm living with another reflector since
I was going to just sort of pull us back there
2011.
and say,
yeah,
your situation is very unique, and this is your episode, so we don't need to go into that. But your dynamic is that you are married to another reflector, and you've got a manifesting generator son. So can we just briefly talk about how that transition was to go from being you to another non-energy type, I suppose, as your wife, and then to navigate through to having constant energy and fluctuating energy, as you say, with that charisma channel like that, as you were saying, that's wow.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just to correct, we're not married, we are partners but it's been incredible to share this journey together with someone that is so precious. And we see life from the same window, kind of. There's a lot of things that we have in common, but we also have our uniqueness. But to have someone like that to share your life with is, it's so special. and it's so precious. And the thing is, because we don't have any electromagnetic connections, there's no consistent theme in our dynamic, in our relationship, beside the movement of the moon and the sun earth conditioning each year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'm just going to let people know that both Paroxus and his partner, apologies, called you her wife, partner, are born on the same day, 9 hours apart. So you are very unique in that sense. And that's why what you were saying there before, that you don't have that magnetic energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So just a bit of backstory.
Yeah,
there,
thank you.
People listening through.
Yeah. Yeah. And that means, as I mentioned, that we have this the planetary program that is our conditioning force. So there is no theme when we meet, and then all of a sudden, well, we get this bundle of energy into our dynamics.
Yeah.
And everyone that had get a child, they know, well, that changed your world. It changes who you are, and the matter of responsibilities and the pressure and the family dynamic, the dynamic of your relationship as a couple, everything is just changing because of this being that is just through through the woman,
up and down.
yeah. Well, just just want to recognize the women that is giving birth to new beings, because wow, what a thing you are doing. Especially Reflector Mothers. Everyone, you have my deepest respect for that contribution to this world, because it's different for us. I, as a reflective father, I know the challenge that is put on me, but as a mother, being the nourishing force of this being, that it's a demand that generators are designed to provide.
Yeah.
This like exchange of energy, this constantly generating the life force that provides the life for the other. And making babies, it's the work of a generator by design. And then we have manifestors, projectors, and reflector still doing that work and having that journey.
I know this is a little bit off topic, but given Reflector Mothers, let's just talk about this for a second. And if we are nourishing, like we birth these babies, generators, manifesting generators, whatever their design is, they spend, if you are breastfeeding, or even if you're bottle feeding, it doesn't matter what feeding you're doing, but they are pretty much tied to us for so long. We don't get a break. What do you think about that from an aura level?
Oh my God. Yeah. I've seen that. And it's crazy. It's crazy because, as you said, the child is basically attached to your body all the time. And the child, it's, I guess, when they start becoming 3, that they start to separate from the mother, and they start to recognize that they are their own being. And then they see the father, and it's like, hey, well, that's a funny thing too, hey, let's play. And the mom is starting to get the relief. And from my observation and witnessing, it's first now when Leon is 7 years, that, well, I'm the attention. Um, so yeah, um, I guess just make sure that it's correct if you get children as a reflector, to really connect with yourself. And having that journey, well, it is incredible,
Mm.
but it's incredible rewarding and incredible challenging too.
Yeah, because I
Um,
think it can break. It can having no time apart from an energy, especially if it's a
yeah.
manifesting generator or even a
Mhm.
manifestor child. Like that could be that. Well, I've had manifesting generator. I've had them all actually. Um,
Mhm.
and some are more challenging than the others. But what do you feel that the aura, like I've read a lot about in human design, where generally the child's aura or the mother's aura, it's whatever it is, we're protected from our
Mhm.
newborn children. That generally is not an overwhelming aura. Do you know anything about that from?
Well, I think um, one thing um, is that children, they come and they are not bringing not self-conditioning.
Mhm.
So if you're aware and know how to nourish this child properly, you will take away so much resistance from being a parent. It doesn't mean that it won't be challenging, but you will not do things that just leads to you meeting resistance. And you will nourish the intelligence of this being, the awareness of this being, so they can operate correctly and bring a great amount of, if it's a generator child, a great amount of satisfaction into your life.
Mm.
Um, but of course, it's always a demand there on the parents, and you cannot escape that.
Mm.
And it's something that you need to surrender to, and you need to surrender yourself and just be in this companionship or motherhood or fatherhood, in this new family dynamic, um, as yourself. Then it becomes easier. Well, it will still be challenging.
Mm. Do you find it's now a little bit easier that your son's 7, or is it becoming a little bit more challenging that he's really ramping up now?
Well, the thing is, life never stops. I said that before, to challenge you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it comes and goes, the challenges. Depends on the dynamic with the child and your unique connection to it. And well, at times, the thing is, me and Leon and Kitsi and Leon, our theme is work to do. So there are these times when there's a lot of ease and everything is just flowing, and all of a sudden there's like this fight, especially because we have the struggle together with Leon, and he has this competitive energy, and he's fully self-centered and self-absorbed, and it's all about his process for him. He's a 1-3, so he's just focused on what he's investigating. And it's incredible to, I say that so many times, but to witness that and to be able to honor that too, that he doesn't care about me. It's about his process and him being himself. And when he is himself, it is such an empowering feeling that he just sends out around him.
Yeah.
And such a love of just being alive in the now. And we go like, wow. And we know that. So we as a parent, you need to be wise, especially as a reflector. You are here to be wise about the world, the people that you take in, and to help them, well, get to the point of honoring their uniqueness. So it also challenges us and our ideas in how one should behave. Oh, you should be like this or that, you should have this discipline or that. And this is penta conditioning.
Yeah.
And when we can recognize that, we can recognize our own part of this thing that is going on, because it's both sides that need to recognize something, and both sides has something to contribute with, even if it's a toddler or a teenager or so. If even if it's saying, okay, I'm sorry, or giving up something, hey, okay, this is something, my idea of how this should be, I need to give that up, and I need to communicate and ask what actually works. But still, you need to have your borders.
Yeah.
This is not working for me, and recognize that. And in my experience as a reflector, it takes time to get to that point.
Yes.
This is enough for me now. That behavior is not working. We need to have a talk. And what you are doing makes me feel like this. It's not about making, now I'm talking about my latest experience with Leon. It's not about making him responsible for my reaction, but he needs to know that if he acts in a specific way, I will react like this.
Yeah.
And then he can, it's easier for him to respect that and understand, oh, maybe I should actually change the way I'm behaving, because that brings something, it works better. So yeah, I'm having human design. It's so awesome to be able to have this tool to be able to recognize, well, this is the limitation.
Yeah. I found having human design just in my family life and understanding my friends, my children, has been the best gift. It's been the best gift, because even though I'm not doing it perfectly, I can try to understand them and then allow them to understand me. And that's it. So when did you started studying? Obviously you've gone down this, you started studying human design, and it's led you to develop the business that you've got. Would you like to talk to us about that?
Sure. I just want to say one thing, because you're saying that you're not doing it perfectly. And there is no way of doing it that perfectly.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's about you having your experience. It's not about following a book that says this is how you're supposed to live.
Thank you. You are so right. I retract that. I'm doing it just my way.
Yes. Yes.
I think that's what I was saying before. It can be very hard, I think, because in this time where social media is so prevalent, and you're thrown all this shit all the time, and you feel like, oh fuck, I'm not doing it right. And as you say, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just you doing it your way. And even though I try to advocate for that, I still fall short of that, to go, fuck, I'm doing it wrong. And it's just like, no, you're not. So thank you. Thank you so much for pulling me up on that, because that is so accurate. No one is doing this wrong. We're all doing it the best we can. We're just leaning into a knowledge. We've always been this way. That's what I'm like. It's like we've always been reflectors. It's not like we're new to being a reflector. We've been reflectors our whole lives. It's just we're learning how to navigate it with a little bit more knowledge, maybe. Or a little bit more grace, or a little bit more us. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, it's not about doing anything.
True that.
Yeah. So this is not about us doing it. It's about us experiencing it, and witnessing us being and having a human experience. Souls, beings of black matter traveling in these bioforms in an incredible speed and living in this neutrino ocean with trillions and trillions of neutrinos that penetrate through us every second. And we're sitting there sometimes in our head and thinking, you're doing it wrong. This is good, this is bad. We need to recognize the mind as an ally in this process. That the mind is here to observe the life and pay attention to what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
And whenever we are observing ourselves, judging and comparing ourselves in this process, to try to take a step back and just think blah 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 blah, 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 blah.
I
Blah,
love it.
blah, 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 blah. And it goes on and on and on. The mind,
Yes.
it's incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
But
It's
it is not
amazing.
us. It
No.
is not us. That's the thing. We are not our mind. We are souls with this human experience, with these bioforms, these bodies. And we're here to experience them. And our mind is here to witness, yeah, this journey, us being who we are without, well, we cannot stop it from comparing.
Yeah.
But observe, hey, are we in that loop again, comparing ourselves,
Yeah.
judging ourselves?
And saying
Maybe.
the words that we say, because it matters. Like, even though I might think or feel one thing, my words are going, doing and doing and doing, and you just think, hang on a second, and you just said that. It's just like, no, we shouldn't be doing. And she's like, yeah, I know that. And you're like, but I'm still saying I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's this, isn't it? This is the mind loop that we get caught up in, where we think one thing, or we think we feel, but we don't truly, because we're still busy thinking.
Yeah.
It's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
It's a construct.
Yeah. Yeah. But you get it. You
I
see
do.
it.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
You know, you have that. Oh my God, that is incredible.
Yeah.
To be at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Mm.
We're doing it. We're having the conversations. That's why we're having the conversations.
Thank you so much for providing this space so this can be shared.
Yeah.
And being the leader for this, the conversation between reflectors.
And we've all got to go through different phases. I think that's, we've just all got to challenge ourselves to it. Like, we've all just got to have, and something that I've found is that, and I felt it myself, that we've never really had a platform to just be able to talk or just be able to share. And I think that's why I started this. And it's just like, there's no, as you're saying before, there's no right or wrong. And it's just giving people a platform to be able to, hey, this is me. And how wonderful that you know, that makes my heart sing, to allow people to be them, because we don't get that a lot. You know, when we talk to people, we're generally the ones that are listening, holding space. Do you feel that? Do you feel that with the people that you speak with as well?
Well, as a reflector, basically we are the space. We are the room. And the other types, they go in there and they look around, and all they see is themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they look in the mirror in the room, and they think they look at us, and they see themselves, and they they can go like, oh my God, that's so incredible. I'm like, you are so incredible. And we're like holding up the mirror. It's like, yeah, I am incredible, or they go like, I don't like you. And we hold up the mirror and it's like, yeah, you don't like me,
Yeah.
And uh, one part of my process is observing that people, they like to like, oh, I'm so pretty, like they like to see that side of themselves. And then when the light shifts and they see the shadow, they go, no, I'm not going to deal with that, because I'm rather just seeing the like, I'm rather just stepping into the light and not looking back. And it's like, okay, well, we cannot share something that one is not ready to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's a fundamental aspect of this that one needs to recognize, that we can just be there and wait for the other to be ready.
Or we don't have to wait at all. We can just kind of be us. And when they get around to it, that's their prerogative.
Yeah. Well,
I've just stopped waiting for people. It's like, I'm not waiting.
Well,
I'm not waiting.
Yeah, when I say waiting, I'm not meaning stop living your life.
Yeah.
I'm just saying don't initiate trying to change what is.
I like that, because that is a big thing with, I feel, and I'm going to say this, but I feel, generally speaking here, that is a big thing with us reflectors, because being open-centered, we often feel a lot of things and we can over-initiate. And I think, as you were saying earlier, the whole time it's learning to wait and really wait. That's hard. I think that's one of my hardest things, is just to not initiate and wait. It's because I want to get shit done and I want to get done now. It's just like, you're not a manifester. You're not this. You're not that. Wait.
Yeah. Wait. Have patience with yourself. Because, well, it is a challenge. But I believe we need to also, the thing is, when we say wait, we got to remember that actually means staying present with yourself and not running away from yourself, to let life flow through you and carry you wherever you may go. Yeah. And while you do so, be fulfilled of life, taking each step with awareness and recognition of what is, and being amazed of this wonder, this Maya, this world we're living in. Yeah, and for us reflectors, being one with the planetary program, embodying the evolutionary program of consciousness in form, being the ones that being in connection with the latest news, the latest information of the next step of this process, because that is the planetary program. It constantly incarnates new beings with the latest information, with the latest models. And that is what we're taking in moment by moment. There is a reason Ra called us, we are the aspect of the finger of God. And we have the potential of being the ultimate judge of who's living correctly and who's not. And being in the center of the hierarchy, being in the center of the hierarchy of the types and judge. But there's nowhere we can get there by initiating. It's a matter of traveling as ourselves and becoming wise what life is bringing us. And how to deal with it as ourselves. So
so good. I want to keep going, but I'm mindful that I've taken up a lot of your time.
Yeah.
This has been an amazing chat.
Mhm.
And I can't thank you enough for just sitting in space with me and sharing this and just being open and allowing it to flow where it needed to flow.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
Would you like to share anything? Yeah.
Yeah. That was me not waiting. Yeah, I just want to say one more thing.
Yeah, no, go.
Yeah, no, I would just like to share that I'm offering services for other reflectors and all other types too. I offer signpost sessions where you can just get reflections of yourself, and I'm here to be sensitive and recognize the needs of the other and empower you in a sustainable direction. So if you resonate with me, you can check out thekeytoyourself.com and what I have to offer. And I'm also offering Living Your Design, a Living Your Design program that is deepening into all the centers and everything that conditions you, that pulls you, distracts you from yourself. Or introduction readings or more detailed readings. It all depends on where you are in your process. And soon I will also hopefully offering family consultings. So helping people recognize the dynamics between each other as couples and as individuals, and also the dynamic from the Penta and how to support your children and your partner of recognizing, and well, mainly yourself, what is correct for you. But yeah, doing that, we can also provide that gift knowledge to the other to support them, recognize what makes them unique.
Beautiful. I love the work that you have done and are doing. And I have my utmost respect for you.
Yeah, you have a nice evening, night.
I will. I'm going to bed.
Yeah, and hopefully we talk again some other time.
Thank you so much, Paroxus. Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.